Hey guys, welcome to the channel. Primal Chaos here. Today I'm going to be doing a bit of a request. It's going to be a little bit of an interesting one. A YouTube account, someone who goes by the name of Claire's Epiphany, hit me up with, she's actually contacted me a couple of times with some really amazing comments that sort of go into a lot of depth and detail about some things, and that was really interesting. And she pointed out that Bring Me the Horizon has a song called Pray for Plagues that is really good. It's one of her favorites, but also there's a version of it performed by Will Ramos as well. So from Lorna Shore, as everybody's now aware, so I was thinking what I might do is do a review of Pray for Plagues, because I was going to do some Bring Me the Horizon anyway, because they're pretty much probably far and away the most requested band that I do more of. And to be honest with you, one I'm most curious about as well, because they just have so much diversity in their songwriting and things like that. It's really interesting. I've done a couple so far, but I've always wanted to dive back in and do some more. So I'm going to do this, and I'm trying to decide whether or not I should attempt to do both versions in the one review. Actually, you know what? I don't think I will. I'll just do them I'll do them as separate videos, because if I do them both at once, it's almost more like I'm comparing the vocalists, and I don't want to do that. It's not a competition. I want to be able to see the subtlety and the nuance in each performance rather than putting them against each other in a head-to-head battle to the death. So, yeah, I haven't heard this song. I feel like this is one of their very early songs, or at least from a really long time ago. I really should do some more research on these songs before I review them, but I just don't want any spoilers. So, all right, let's just get straight into it. Cool video effects. Wait a minute, was that supposed to be in there? The vocal shifts like to the right side. What? I don't know what's going on. If that's a glitch or if it's part of the mix. That's really weird. It just sort of shifts. Like, I'm trying to figure out exactly if the vocal's sitting in the middle, but all of a sudden it just glitches to one side. And I mean, I guess it could be like an artistic choice, or am I just listening to a bad version of this? Like, there was another version of this, but it was only 240p, and that seemed like the official video. So I could barely sort of make anything out. This is a little bit better quality, but I don't know if that's an audio glitch or if it's actually part of the mix. I'll have to figure that out at a later date. But yeah, let me get back to trying to figure out the song. There's some great little licks in between parts there that's really nice. It's all balls to the wall guitar riffs so far. Like just a high tempo, sort of keeping up with the drums. That's interesting. There's two vocals going on there. That's definitely layering. I'd be interested to know, hit me up in the comments if you're aware, but do they normally have another member of the band doing like the low vocals while Ollie screams over the top, or what? Because there's definitely layering there. Maybe they just don't perform that part live. But yeah, it's interesting. Like, it's... I love that effect with the teeth. That's just a stroke of genius. Yeah, there it goes again. I'm so confused. Cool. There we go. Breakdown. Jesus. I can see why, and as much as I don't want to talk about the other guy in I can see why Will Ramos probably chose to do a cover of this, because it does employ all the same vocal techniques that he's known for now, like the screechy highs, the solid sort of rah, 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 mids, and then you've got these super low growls as well. So yeah, I can see what attracted him to it. That's intense. That's some creepy video clips. Am I crazy? Was there a t-shirt or something that had just those teeth drawn on it? Or something? That doesn't seem new to me. It seems like I've seen that somewhere before. It's really cool though. I really dig the imagery. Let's go back a bit. I just want to hear that filthy breakdown a little bit more. Just a good solid breakdown riff. There's nothing too complex about it. Reverse vocals. That's really cool. Again, so much vocal layering. And like, I'm not saying that. Some people think that when I say stuff like, or like when people say stuff like, you know, oh, there's heaps of vocal layers and stuff there, that it's a criticism. It's absolutely not. It's a textural device employed to sort of give the studio recordings, which are often very sterilized, because in a studio environment, you don't have the energy that you have of your band's sound pumping through a massive PA with people screaming the song back to you. You know, there's an energy live on stage that you just can't capture in the studio in most cases, particularly with aggressive music like this. And so what ends up happening is when you hear the song you've recorded down, you're used to hearing it in a small club venue through a PA, and you can barely even hear yourself. And there's just so much just energy coming out through those speakers that when you hear it in the studio, it's all very clean and sterile. And so oftentimes you employ techniques like this where you will layer vocals and stuff like that to give it sort of a little bit more of, you know, a more interesting flourish and a bit more diversity throughout the, you know, the program material, like the length of the song. You want things to change up and stuff like that. You don't necessarily need 4 voices chiming in at once on a live performance, because you just rip the mic up to your mouth and just let the audience have it, right? But in a studio mic, when you're sort of back here and you sort of you can hear every finite detail of the character of your voice. Sometimes what would normally sound like through a microphone now sounds like rah, you know. So you've got to use tactics to sort of, you know, bring the level of the energy back up to what it is. So or to what you're used to performing it live. So yeah, just keep that in mind whenever I say things like, oh, there's some layering going on there. I'm not saying they're cheating. I'm not saying, oh, they're not a good singer or they can't produce these sort of sounds live. I mean, clearly they can because they recorded it, but it's more just a case of their textural choices in order to give the recorded material more energy. That's all it is. Oh, that was really nice. I really wish there was a copy of this video in better quality, because it's so much cool work gone into it, and I feel like I'm watching it through a potato, you know. But let me just go back. I just want to hear those guitar riffs again. That was really cool. That's really dissonant, sort of scale that they're using there. That just sort of it just sounds off kilter. It's like that's really cool. Yeah. Yeah, there it is. See, that just sounds really like a normal sort of major scale would just be like, and there's nothing fun or interesting about that, but if you, just a cool little lick. I love it. Very, very cool. We've got some sweeps going on there. Actually, I want to go back and address that actually, because there's something here that's really interesting for guitarists are familiar with this, but or most guitarists. So I guess a lot of guitarists, not most. I don't want to lump everybody in, but there's certain when you're writing like solo parts, there's certain techniques you can employ to just make things sound a little bit more interesting. And one of those, and it seems to be coming up more and more often in this genre of music, is sweep picking. And I talked about this in I think my one take video of To the Hellfire. But essentially what it is it's rather than plucking each individual note or hammering on or anything like that, you're raking the pick up the strings and down the strings, and you're sort of, rather than playing the notes of the chord or the scale in a linear fashion, like da 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 da, you play 1 to 2 notes per string. And what it does is it just breaks up. You're still technically playing the same notes, just in a different order. But when you play it across up and down the strings, it just gives an energy that's a little bit more chaotic and sometimes really beautifully melodic as well. It just doesn't seem natural coming out of a guitar as much as, say, just playing linear scales, right? So, but anyway, I'll point out what I'm talking about. Trying to remember if it was back here or if I could go back further now. Nice harmonized part there. This is chaos right now. They're doing that thing with the vocal again, man. It freaks me out. It just sort of slips to the side for some reason. And I'm sure it's deliberate. And again, I think it's to just make it seem like, again, just glitchy and off kilter. But it's freaking me out. Not because it's not a good choice. It's freaking me out because I'm not sure if it's just the terrible quality of the video that's doing it. But it's only the vocal, so it has to be in the mix. In which case, I think it's a really cool idea. Hang on. Oh, here we go. Sorry, I didn't rewind. There we go. So this is what I was talking about with the sweep picking, right? See, it sounds a lot more classical and sort of grandiose because oftentimes you'll see arpeggios. They're called sweep arpeggios because an arpeggio is basically taking a chord shape out of a scale and breaking it up into a pattern that sort of, like I said, plays 1 to maybe 2 notes per string, rather than just playing, you know, a typical scale pattern will have like very linear note progression. It'll sound like you're playing on a piano from the low note through to the high note. Whereas with arpeggios, you're kind of bouncing, you know, over the scale, skipping a lot of notes. And so you get that sort of really classical violin-y kind of tone. It was really popularized by sort of neoclassical guitarists back in the day, like particularly like Yngwie Malmsteen and guys like that. So it just gives you that sort of hurdy-gurdy kind of classical off-kilter balance kind of melodic pattern that isn't typical of just linear guitar playing. It's also kind of a bit rarer too because it's a difficult technique to learn as well, because you have to not only be comfortable playing arpeggios, but also you have to sweep them as well, which is a technique that's kind of like it's a bit antithetical to normal guitar playing where you pick the string, or you play legato where you don't pick the string. You're just sort of combining everything all at once, and everything has to be perfectly timed. Yeah, so it's very interesting that they're using it. Listen to that low growl. Tempo change. There it is again. I'll tell you one thing this genre does really well as well that is really unusual, is just having these little, like just before it led into this part, there was just a whole bunch of different activity going on where it would just start an idea and then stop and then go in a different direction and stop. And it's just like, these little passages of just randomness in between, the major parts of the song where you're not sure what's really going on. It just takes you in three different directions and then it decides on a path and continues on. And I don't know of any other kind of music that really would suit that kind of that randomness, Oh. This is the part where all of the injuries happen in the pit. All right. Wow. That's really interesting. Hang on. Before I stop, I just want to. Man, I would love to hear this. I'd love to know if they've remastered this, because it really, again, I'm not sure if it's just the quality of the video on YouTube or what, but it just seems like there's so much more room here for dynamics and stuff like that in a more modern recording mastering setting. Like the kick drums could just be massive and all that. And there's some interesting textures and stuff in the vocals, which I think get buried a little bit in the quality of this, because I guess it's more of an earlier recording. I'm hoping it's more just a case of this is just not a good quality version, because, it's really raw and they sound great, but I'm just saying that I don't think that the actual recording gives it the energy that the song really deserves. But all right, guys, you've heard me talk about Enchroma Glasses before, and I'm going to do it again. If 1 in 6 guys, 1 in 200 women are colorblind, and Enchroma can help you out with that. So just click on the link in the description. It'll take you to their website where you can get your eyes tested, find out if you're in fact colorblind and what kind of colorblindness you have. And they also sell really awesome corrective glasses, which I thoroughly endorse. I love them. I wear mine every day. Just use the code chaos in the checkout and you'll get 10% off. Okay, so where do I begin? Honestly, my feelings on this song are kind of similar to what I experienced with Chelsea Kiss, Chelsea Smile, sorry. In that I don't know that I hear that much of a difference compositionally between this and their latest album. I've heard, I mentioned like in the previous Bring Me the Horizon reviews that before going into this whole project, I was actually very familiar with their latest album because it just came across my desk and it sort of piqued my interest. In fact, it's probably part of the reason I sort of decided to go down this route of like learning about aggressive vocal sort of bands, because I was really intrigued by what I was hearing with them and a few other artists that were sort of, bouncing around. And I really dug what they were doing with that album. But again, I think what it is that, there might be, this might be slightly more aggressive in pace and things like that, but the fundamentals of their writing, I don't think have really changed. They still have the chaotic moments, and, the dynamics of like tempo and the bombacity of the different parts of the songs and things like that. That hasn't changed. It's more just the production level has changed. There's more things like, samples and synthesized parts, which maybe that sort of tweaks a few people's noodles a little bit. But to be honest with you, I hear pretty much the same band. For a band that I had heard had pivoted so dramatically that now they've lost so many fans and things like that, I just don't see it, I really don't. As far as the song goes, I do feel like this is pretty raw as far as like their, what they were putting out at the time. Raw in the sense of they definitely over time got more of a sense of themselves and they bring that to their more modern stuff. But this is an absolutely perfect song for the period and the style, I guess, that was going around at the time. That whole emo era kind of thing where, or I won't say emo because it's not emo, but it's the scene sort of thing, where everybody was in the scene, but everybody defined themselves by different demographics, but yeah, look, honestly, I love this. I'm going to add it to my playlist, obviously. And, I'm going to try and see if I can track down like a remaster or a high definition version of it, because I really want to hear this in all its glory, because I think it would kick my ass. Anyway, that's about it for me. Like and subscribe. Honestly, like my subscriber count has been just every day just ticking over, and I'm really psyched about that. I hit 100 the other day and I was pretty stoked, and then I glanced again and I was at 120 and I'm like, what's going on? And it's you guys. Thank you so much, particularly people who stick around to the end here and hear this part of it. But yeah, I'm just going to keep on doing what I'm doing. I think what I'm going to do for a little while is, jump into the comments and go for the things that are most highly requested, because I'm getting so many random requests. But there's definitely patterns, like there's always Bring Me the Horizon, do every song by Parkway Drive, things like that. So I at this point, I feel like I have to really give people what they want. So I'm just going to keep doing that and occasionally throw in more of an obscure one. Another thing too, I'm looking at doing, I've got a few irons in the fire. I want to perhaps, once the channel starts getting more movement, I want to like start moving into things like interviews. I think it'd be interesting talking to people and getting perspectives, from the perspective of an interviewer who's asking the fundamental questions, as opposed to tell me about your latest record, things like that. So that might be an interesting angle. And also I got contacted the other day by somebody who wanted to see if I would feature their band. And I think that there's definitely room for that in my channel. Not as a review thing. I don't feel like I'm in any position to tell people whether their stuff's good or bad, but definitely I feel like there's a place here for me to sort of blow up what I feel is really cool about certain things that people send me. At this stage, I don't have the time to do that. So I'm going to sort of work towards that. And maybe what I'll do is I'll do it like a flashback day throughout the week, where I do some fundamental bands from like the genesis of the genre. Like maybe bands that have been a little bit more forgotten over time, because there's all these new flashy bands now, but the guys who were there at the roots, Maybe I should pay them some respect. And then also maybe just do some local bands that haven't quite hit yet, who have some interesting material that I feel like everybody needs to see. But again, at this point with 120 subscribers, I don't know that it's worth sort of featuring people on a platform where, you know, they might only end up getting 100 views, which I know to an up and coming band is still a lot. But I feel like hopefully this channel stays on its trajectory and I end up with you know, more sway to be able to really boost these acts, you know. But the best way to do that is if you subscribe, click like on all the videos, and, you know, let's try and do something in this channel that's positive. So thanks a lot, guys. I'll catch you on the next one.